Hello, welcome to Agile World. There's a bit of a false start there.
Are you speaking to me or are you speaking to the group?
We're speaking to whoever's watching. So
okay.
Hopefully, so one of the things about Agile World is it's kind of based on Wayne's World, where they talk to the cameras. So yeah, we're Sabrina may be a rock chick. I'm not a rock dude.
And you can get that inflatable.
You've got to get Maria on this one. Okay, if you haven't interviewed her yet, she would be at home on the stage.
Oh right, okay, cool.
Yes,
give us her details and we'll get her up.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay.
So Sabrina, how's it going?
Not too bad actually. It's been a really good week.
Did you enjoy your holiday from Agile World?
I don't really have much of a holiday, have I?
Well, you know, between season 2 and season 3, you must have like taken an afternoon off.
Yeah, I took a couple of days off of work, not of Agile World, you know, decided to change the color of the background.
It needed an upgrade. And
I'm not going to wipe you off this one.
Good, not this time. And we have Peter Stevens with us. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. You appear to be on a very nice beach somewhere. I hope that that's real.
Oh, well, I mean, it's real somewhere in the world. This is Melbourne. And this is how I do travel these days. You see, when I'm addressing a group of people, what I do is I find a background which is kind of matches the destination. So like I was speaking at a meetup for an Australian-based group. And so I set my background to Melbourne and I set my time zone on my computer to Melbourne time, and presto, jet lag without the jet. It's wonderful. And that I just kind of, that's how I spend, for a meetup, it's only for an hour, but like if I do a course in Sri Lanka, which I do, I actually spend maybe a whole week on Sri Lankan time. With my computer and my cell phone and my screenshot or my screen background in Sri Lanka. And so travel, but it's interesting. I much as I find it easier to travel virtually, I'm looking forward to the jets again. I'm ready. I'm ready to travel. I don't know about you guys.
No, I love flying. I love flying. So, although I always want to drive.
It's one of those situations all of us at some point dreamed that we could actually teleport. And this is probably the closest that we get to experience to actually teleport into whatever location. And really, sometimes we don't even know where we actually are. I could actually be sat on a beach right now and you wouldn't know because of my green screen. I'm not.
Well, I think all of your lollies would have been stolen by the birds or something by now, so I don't think you're there.
I may do it one day. So Peter, thank you very much for joining us. Could you tell us about your Agile journey? How did you get into Agile?
Well, we kind of missed out a bit.
What's that?
Peter, who are you?
Who am I? Okay. So my name is Peter Stevens. I am based in Zurich, Switzerland. I'm originally from the United States. I am probably best known as the creator of the personal agility system. I've been applying agility to the question of how to live your life. I thought it was about how to get things done, but it turns to be really a much deeper question than that. And so that's what I do, and that's what I'm focused on. Up until recently, I would have said in my day job, I'm a Scrum trainer. I discovered Scrum fairly early on. And, for me, this was this great aha moment, finally a way that to organize people that makes sense. And once I learned about it, I decided I wanted to do Scrum projects and never really looked back. And I got in very early, so you couldn't just, go down to, hop online and pick from 25 different CSM classes. So I actually had to teach people Scrum pretty much from the get-go. And so for me, it was just a very natural evolution to become a Scrum trainer. So big part of what I do is Scrum training. A lot of what I do is coaching. And what I'm really excited about is the potential that personal agility is going to have to change people's lives for the better. And so my goal now is to turn that into a movement and see what impact that can have.
Cool. So what is personal agility? I mean, you kind of touched on it lightly.
Okay. Well, personal agility is a simple breathe. So personal agility is a simple coaching-based framework to help you be the person you want to be or become the person who you want to be. Okay, so it's based on really purpose, what really matters, and a couple of simple but powerful questions to help you figure out what really matters. And then once you know what really matters, well, then it becomes much easier to spend more of your time doing things that you care about and less of your time doing things that you don't care about. And the underlying assumption is that we all have too much to do. Some of the things we could do matter and some of them don't. So let's do more of the things that do matter and less of the things that don't. And what's really exciting about it is that when people start doing that, they start seeing what they do and what matters and what doesn't, and they start letting go of the things that don't matter. And they start doing the things that do matter. And that's good for their happiness. That's good for their energy level, their motivation, their income. It's really a win across the board. And we're also starting to experiment now with personal agility as a leadership framework in companies, and it's showing a lot of potential there too. So it's well, in the words of Lisa Atkins, why didn't I think of that? On one hand, it seems so obvious, but on the other hand, it's something that we've really only started exploring, and it's really cool because we're still discovering stuff. I mean, even now, we're still discovering stuff about the implications of applying agility to your life.
Okay.
It's an extremely popular subject at the moment because
a
lot of people are starting to use Agile at home as well,
right. Mm-hmm.
not just their goals, but actually their day-to-day usage. I'm constantly going on about it, so I won't repeat myself on that one because I've said it in a few shows, but it is an extremely popular subject because our way and our life, our work-life balance has also completely changed, especially with us working from home. It's trying to be able to separate it, but still organize it. You don't have the same day-to-day of jumping in your car, going to your office, doing your work and coming home. You're still in the same environment, whether you're lucky enough to have an office or not. So you have to work out the way of shutting the door, but still coordinating and organizing yourself. And personal agility, it's become extremely popular and needed.
Well, I mean, I think one of the big challenges of the the COVID times, before there was this nice clear distinction between work and not work. Okay, you show up to the office, you do your thing, the day is over, you come home. Okay, we have smartphones, and some of us have our work emails on our smartphones, and some of our stakeholders and managers and customers have our private contacts. But basically, you had this. You could say it was very easy to turn off. Okay, but if you work from home, well, all of a sudden that division just isn't there anymore, and so you have I'll call it homework, things from daily life that kind of creep into the day. Anyone who has kids can sing a song about this. What do you do when you got kids who are homeschooling and you're trying to get work done and they need, whatever it is that they need, and kids are fighting with each other, and you say, oh my God, I need some peace and quiet. Okay, and then finally get your peace and quiet. But then all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock in the evening and you got to work into the night and say, well, where's the border? Okay, and so I think some of this is about finding order in your life so that you can, yes, you want to be successful at work, and yes, you need to get things done at work, and you still need to be a person. You still need to get rest and relax and other fun things, and so you got to find the balance. So you need to be more intentional. I think that's what we're seeing is it's helpful if you could be more intentional about how you use your time.
So one of the things you said earlier on was about kind of defining your endpoints or your goals, and then refining what you do and what you don't do. I mean, can you talk us through that a bit? Because it sounds in some ways a bit insidious, like you're a spy creating a false persona, and another level it's a bit where are we going with this?
Yeah, well, I actually think it's more about recognition. Who are you? What do you want to be doing? I see, for me, personal agility, and we talk about this thing called the past priorities map, which helps you remember what it is you want to be doing. Okay, and it's like a friend who you can come and visit, and the friend will always be there for you. When you say, okay, what do I need to be doing now? What do I want to be doing now? Man, there's a conflict between what I must be doing now and what I want to be doing now. Well, how am I going to resolve that conflict? Now, personal agility doesn't give you the answer to the question, but it makes it visible to you. And then if you say, well, I'm only doing the things that other people expect of me. Well, what about my own goals? Man, if I want to achieve my own goals, sooner or later, I'm going to have to start saying no to, some of these other demands on me so that I have time to work on them. And personal agility just helps you see that and helps you make decisions about how to spend your time and gives you the strength to say no, and that's what you need to do.
So you're setting personal work in progress limits.
Well, if you talk to the Kanban folks, they're always saying limit work in progress, but work in progress is only part of it. Okay. The other thing is how many things are allowed to matter? How many top priority items can you have in your life? Okay. If too many things matter, then nothing matters. Okay. And so, personal agility, I was actually I applied both Scrum and personal Kanban before I started really creating, or before personal agility started to emerge out of that. And, what I discovered, the problem isn't limiting the work in progress. Okay. First of all, you can't. I mean, if you have kids and your kids come in and they want something from you, can you say no to them? If you have a boss or you have a customer or you have a spouse and they come in and they want something from you, are you allowed to say no? Okay, sorry, can't do that. No time for that. Breaks my work in progress limit. Come back tomorrow. No. So, okay. So it's not about, creating this wall around yourself. Now, sometimes you can do that at work, and like development teams, I think they really can limit their work in progress. They get their work from outside and they say, okay, we got to focus on a small number of things so we can get things done. But when you're managing your own life, you don't necessarily have the luxury. But what I think is more important is limiting the things that really matter to you. Okay, so if we say what really matters, and for most people, it's something like, my health, my work, my family, my hobby, maybe you have a side gig. So, 4, maybe 5 things. If you have more things than that that matter, well, all of a sudden, one of those things is going to get neglected. Okay, and you're just going to find that even like, for a long time, I had a side gig and I was always working, well, someday my side gig is going to be something. And I realized that unless I made my side gig my top priority, it was never going to be anything. Okay, and so this is the priority thing. How much time do you give it? And if you got too many things that you're juggling, they don't get any time, they don't make any progress, and they don't go anywhere. And so, I've seen so many professionals who have, they have their day job and they have something on the side that they're working on, but that thing on the side almost never goes anywhere because they don't give it enough priority.
So
how's my story? Yeah.
How do you consume this then? Is there a book? Is there a film? Is there a hat, t-shirt?
We actually, I see we need to get you as our fashion consultant here because we don't have the hat yet. We don't have the t-shirt here. So there are a couple of ways to start. Okay, so first of all, we have the personalagilityinstitute.org, which is our homepage. That's where you can find our book club. That's where you can join our community. That's where you'll find the ambassadors around the world. Okay, so one of the things that we're trying to do is, reach out to people in a kind of a direct, almost like a viral way, so that you find out about personal agility from someone who's already discovered it for themselves. Okay, so someone who's an ambassador, has training as a coach, has already gone through some sort of coaching certification. We don't feel a need to reinvent that wheel. But they've learned personal agility from us. They've applied it to their lives, and they've also gotten a real benefit. And most of them, they say, wow, I am so much happier than I used to be, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I'm not doing, personal agility is for transformation, okay, for becoming somebody who you want to be, who you're having troubles becoming. So, we've got about 25, maybe 30 ambassadors around the world right now. And, if you're looking to find out about personal agility, go to our website, find one of the ambassadors and reach out to the person nearest you. There are ambassadors right now from California all the way to Melbourne with, I would say, a line in the middle. Not necessarily every country represented, and we're still a bit, still need people in the Southern Hemisphere, all 3 continents. Well, Australia, we got covered, but the other continents are still undeveloped countries, undiscovered countries. But anyway, so finding people who understand it. There's a lot of people out there. We've trained over 150 people, and about 100 of them have opted to qualify for the recognition as recognized practitioners. You can download the book. The book is available on my website, sat-network.ch. You can get the electronic copy for free, or you can pre-order it. You can also make contributions. We're not opposed to contributions. And there's now a small but growing number of people who offer classes. Okay, so it is possible to sign up for classes, and these are usually online. Right now, I'd say the hotbeds for training are India, Sri Lanka, Australia, and Switzerland, although there are a couple of other people who are just getting up to speed on that now. So basically, you've got all the choices. You can take a class, you can find a coach, you can download the materials yourself and get started yourself. There's all three paths are open to you.
So do you think at some point you'll get adopted by SAFe and you'll be added into that huge diagram somewhere?
Oh God!
like they've done with everything else. They've just taken all the bits of Agile that they like and shoved them into their scaled Agile framework.
This is one of those moments where I see myself, I see my future self having had a weak moment and saying, "Oh God!" And all of the people around me will be saying, "How could you possibly have sold out?" And so one of the things. I think personal agility is fundamentally about people. It starts with people. It's interesting. The patterns that we use, they scale all the way up to very large organizations. Okay, and one of my inspirations for personal agility, and which is actually helping us take it further right now, was the Apollo project in the '60s. Where you had 400,000 people all working towards a common goal, which was to get man to land, to bring man to the moon, or humankind to the moon, and bring them safely back. And so, we've taken inspiration from the Apollo project. Now, that is a huge project, even by the scale of things that you would take on with SAFe. I am one of the more skeptical people of SAFe. I think SAFe is a nice, safe approach for people who don't want to change anything. Personal agility is like Scrum. It's got an aspiration for transformation and becoming something different and better than what you were before. I've only looked closely at what SAFe has done to Scrum, and they've kind of taken the teeth out of Scrum, so it doesn't, it's safe. It doesn't, Scrum is hard. Scrum is painful. Scrum requires, when you do an agile transformation, if you're doing a real agile transformation, what you're doing is you're restructuring the company to optimize for speed and value creation. You want to be fast. Okay, think Elon Musk doing a new Saturn V class rocket every month. Okay, that's what he's doing. A Tesla gets 27 updates per week. That's more than your telephone. Okay, this is speed. This is what you're striving for with agility. Now, most companies don't want to do that. That's not what they don't see that. Oh, no, we don't need to do that. I was talking to someone at a bank today, or a couple of days ago, and he says, "Oh, yes, well, this is how my job is going to change. And well, I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be, but it's going to take a lot of time." Okay, and he repeated that phrase. It's going to take a long time, and it's almost like that was a mantra at this particular company. And I kind of think, well, they expect things to take time, and they do their best to make that wish come true. So, I don't know. I don't see personal agility as being a niche in somebody's framework. On the other hand, I never saw Scrum as being a niche in somebody's framework either. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You're open to the conversation then.
Well, let's put it this way. Yeah.
I think there's a huge bit in SAFe, for instance, that goes on about mindsets, but doesn't say how to do any of it.
Yeah. I mean, what might be interesting is to look at what happened in open source software. I mean, open source software was a rebellion against the dominant position of commercial software, in particular Microsoft, to some extent various other companies. Today, as far as I know, open source software is not politically controversial. All the major companies are supporting it. Linus Torvalds is probably the richest probably ought to be on the Forbes top 500 list, because he got some very nice gifts and he earns a very great Silicon Valley salary. He's doing wonderful, even though the software is free. So I think there's a lot of potential to coexist with the corporate world, which is somehow beneficial to the purposes of the movement. I see personal agility as something which is so simple that it's universally applicable. If you're struggling with 6 jobs and can't handle an unexpected $400 bill, personal agility can help you. If you are the CEO or the executive director of a large organization, personal agility can help you too. So I don't really quite know where personal agility is, where it's going to take us. A lot depends on the resonance that it gets. Right now, the people who take the classes, they love it. And, half of the people are coaches and say, I want to be an ambassador. I want to take this. Like I gave this to a guy in New York. Imagine someone getting up at 4 a.m. to take my class at 10 o'clock in Switzerland. He's getting up at 4 a.m. in the US, and now he wants to take it back to his home country, which I think is Turkey, if I remember correctly. And, so there's this, wow, this unfolding, this empowerment, this energizing that people get. It's really amazing to see. So, what's SAFE got to do with that? I have no idea, but hopefully we'll stay off of their radar screen for another month or two.
What's the overall goal then that you have for personal agility? So when you first started this journey, where do you envision this journey going? I mean, you're doing really, really well with it, and I'm a full supporter of this. Personal journey is the way to go. But what's your overall goal?
Okay, so when I got started, it was really quite simple. I had too much to do and not enough time to do it, and I wasn't making any progress in my business. And so I decided to just kind of take a step back. I was doing desktop Kanban, but it wasn't helping me. And the reason it wasn't helping me is because my problem wasn't work in progress. My problem was backlog was too long. And this led me to, first of all, start thinking it, trying things out. I tried Scrum out, discovered part of it worked, part of it didn't work so well. In particular, my lack of a Scrum master was a real challenge. And, as over time, things evolved. And one of the things is, okay, in Scrum, you've got a product, it's got a vision. Well, what's the product? Who's the product owner? Oh, wait a minute, I'm the product owner. It's my life. I get to decide. And that actually led me to some kind of interesting things. And the metaphor that we use now is, well, life is an ocean and it's your boat and you're the captain of the boat. You're not just the captain, you're also the owner of the boat. So you get to decide where it goes. Yeah. And that navigation metaphor for achieving long-term goals is really helpful. So what are we trying to achieve with this? Okay. So for me, it was about sharing the stories, and there were two cases which were really really set the direction for it. The first was with Maria Mattarelli. I met Maria at a conference. I'd known her from the community from a long time ago, but then I met her again at a conference in Portugal, the Scrum Day, which that year was held in Porto. And she was doing a thing called Agile Marketing. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. She's trying to create a certification program, which is kind of what I wanted to do. And, she's doing marketing, which could be really useful. And so we had a brief conversation in Porto, and then agreed to talk in more depth at the Scrum gathering in Munich, a couple of weeks later. And during our conversation in Munich, I asked her the key question of personal agility, which is what really matters. And at that time, Maria's vision of herself is she wanted to live the agile lifestyle, which for her meant, spreading the word about agility on one-way tickets. She had no permanent address. So I asked her what really mattered. And, she listed off a couple of things which reflected how she was living her life. And then she said, wait a minute, I spent a couple of weeks in the hospital. I was in a wheelchair this year. My health sucks, and it's not even on my radar screen. What are you going to do about that? And at that point, she decided she needed to make dramatic changes in her lifestyle. She says, hey, I want to pay attention to my health. That really matters to me. And yes, it means I'm going to stop traveling, or I'm going to cut down on my traveling, and I'm going to change what I eat, and I'm going to do more exercise. And so that what really matters question can be really life-changing, both for people and for companies. So that was one story. Now, fast forward, 2 years later, and Maria and I have been working on this with various levels of intensity. And so it's now December of 2018, I guess, or maybe 19. I lose track of the years, about a year and a half ago. And I said, Maria, we need to make more progress on this book. Okay. And I got an idea. How about I come to Florida? She lives in Florida. So I said, how about I come to Florida for a week in January and we see if we can get the book finished? And she says, okay. So we agreed to fly. So my wife and I, we flew out to Florida. And the couple days before arriving, she says, oh, by the way, while you're here, I want you to meet a woman named Sharon. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Well, she wants to invite you to dinner. Oh, that's interesting. Why does she want to invite me to dinner? Well, to say thank you. Oh, thank you for what? Well, for personal agility, of course. Okay. Turns out Sharon met Maria while she was working on one of her 6 jobs. One of them was being an Uber. That's how she came in contact with Maria. And somehow she figured out that Maria was going to be able to help her. And she and Maria came together, and Maria coached her for a year on personal agility. Now, when Sharon started working with Maria, she was, as I say, she was working 6 jobs. She was barely earning, the equivalent of a full-time minimum wage job. That was her best year ever to date. And she had this dream of she wanted to open a catering company. Okay, and she was a very good cook, but there were all these things, and like, her car broke down, or no, actually she missed a car payment, and literally, her car was impounded, the day of a gig, and she couldn't go to the gig, and that would have cost her, a ton of money. And through personal agility and Maria's coaching, she was able to turn her life around. Okay, now by the time I met her, they'd been working together for about a year. She'd gone from 30,000 a year to a quote unquote 6-figure income that is over 100,000 in 1 year, and also managed to sign some contracts which ensured that she'd have the same life, the same income at least for the next year. And this is a caterer just as COVID was breaking out. Okay, so totally turned her life around. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And so the dinner was to say thank you for that, to make this change in her life possible. And to this day, she's still grateful. And she's also still, I think she's taken it to the next level twice. So what's personal agility? What are we trying to achieve with personal agility? Well, I did a little bit of research on this problem with not being able to pay an unexpected $400 bill. According to surveys, that's about 30 to 40% of the US American population that's in exactly the same situation. This was before COVID. Okay, you do the math, and that comes out to 100 million people. Okay, now if we can just touch 1% of them, like we touched Sharon's life, that's 100 million. That's 1 million people, getting out of struggling mode and getting into comfortable middle class mode. So, our vision with the Personal Agility Institute is a world where people can live and work with purpose, according to purpose. And what we want to do is we want to reach 1 million people and enable them to change their lives like Sharon did. So that's what we're about.
That's amazing.
It'll be amazing when it happens.
Yeah. Well, I can see how important it is. It's nice to actually hear a success story, because that is, it's more than a successful story. It's an success story and achievement. What do you think, Karl?
Yeah.
No, it's for some reason I'm thinking of Bill and Ted when we go into the future, and Peter Stevens is the god that we all been looking for. So it's
no.
But it just seems like that in terms of the context of what's possible with people. And I think there are so many things out there that people are distracted by that are essentially ways to rip people off and to reduce their sense of well-being and their sense of hope. And actually, I really like this. I'm going to investigate afterwards, after this interview, because I think it's Agile is not simply a thing. It is a way of thinking about things and how you allow them to influence you. So I'm fascinated. I'm also fascinated by the impetus. What caused you to find this? I mean, it's.
You mean being overworked?
So you were just driven. You were just driven by your own circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's the power of agility. I mean, you look at the guys who wrote the Agile Manifesto. They were all software developers. They were all suffering with the frameworks that were being imposed on them by management, and they said, "Guys, get out of the way. We
want to work and
we know
do
how
good.
To do it. Let us work and do good." Okay, and the number one request was, management, please get out of the way. And the whole what I think a lot of people in the Agile movement have lost sight of is that it's a very pragmatic movement. The first sentence, we're uncovering better ways of doing what we do. Okay, by doing it and helping others to do it. Now I've refactored that slightly, which, by the way, the original authors kind of declined to do. But you refactor it slightly, and it's universally applicable. You can apply that to your life. You can apply that to teaching. You can apply that to running a company. you can be an agile executive. Okay, so we're uncovering better ways of running our companies by doing it and helping each other to do it. And the concept works. So I think agility is a hugely powerful concept. And it's not about and this is why things like maybe you've heard the agile industrial complex. They teach you, you got to do story points, you got to have a product owner, and you got to do 2-week sprints, and you got to update your estimates every day, and blah 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 blah. Well, these are all potentially good practices, but that's not what agility is about. Okay.
So I think that those things are the context that people work in. So I think this is why I tend to view agile as a smorgasbord rather than a single process. I mean, after all, they were trying to get rid of processes, and people are reinventing processes around it now. But actually, it should be, here's the menu. Choose the bits that help you, and leave the bits that don't.
And personal agility takes that concept a step further. Okay, personal agility is not a process; it's a collection of questions. Mm-hmm. Okay, at its heart, it's 6 questions that you can ask yourself, or you can ask someone else, or someone else can ask you. Okay, and it's really, the idea is this concept of dialogue. Okay, and so you ask questions and you really listen to the answers. Okay, and hopefully if you ask real questions, and that encourages people to think. And what's happening here is you're saying, okay, I'm an individual, okay, and I'm responsible for me, but I'm also interacting with other individuals around me. Okay, now individuals and interactions, does that ring any bells to you? Okay,
yeah.
Well, there are 2 places. First of all, that's the first principle of the Agile Manifesto, but that's also we talk about emergence. Okay, emergence is like 2 hydrogen atoms interacting with an oxygen atom, and they come together and they make this new thing called water. Okay, so water is an emergent property of hydrogen and oxygen. You take that water, pour it on fabric, and you get this new thing called wetness, which is an emergent property of the fabric and the water. Well, it turns out emergence is something that we see all the time. People come together to form a team. That team is a bigger thing than the individuals that made it up. It has an identity and a continuity, which is independent of the individuals in the team. Unless you can take one person out and put another person in, you still have the same team. You still have a team. But if you just destroy, totally separate the team and put a new group of people together, you don't have the same team anymore. So this concept of emergence, this is a real thing. This makes teams, families, cities, towns, companies, countries, all of these things are emergent properties. And I believe that the dialogue, the questioning, okay, personal agility is fundamentally about powerful questions. And I believe that that's the fundamental tool to drive emergence. So you remember you asked me what personal agility is. I said it's a coaching-based framework. It's not a coaching framework. I used to say that, but it's not. It's what we're trying to do is guide emergence so that these bigger things happen, that are bigger than just ourselves. That could be with our families, that could be with our teams, that could be with our companies. Okay, but it's all about the dialogue. It's all about what's happening between the individuals.
Well, I'm sold. Can I have 2, please? One for my wife as well.
Then your wife will start saying no.
Well, no, she'll start saying maybe. Let's discuss it.
We actually have our first couple now. There was a couple. They were thinking about getting together, getting married, and they said, "Well, I'm not sure I want to do that." And so they took a course together with, this was in Australia. Okay, because they wanted to be able to have conversations about what really matters. Okay, and after so they took the course for a week and they went through the coaching program. And I wasn't giving the course. I don't know the 100% of the details, but I really want to see this one become a case study. They basically said, "Yep, we belong together," and that being belong together on our what really matters column is something like 6 kids. But they're off and they're committed. Okay, and I think this is about you get the dialogue and you get the people, the right interactions emerge. Now we've also had people do personal agility and decide to leave their rather painful spouses. So we've had both. It goes both ways. We've seen people decide to leave the company. We've seen people able to find new jobs at surprisingly senior positions. So
it's beginning to sound a bit like something from Black Mirror.
Ah, man.
Relate to it. I can actually relate to this though, because I'm very lucky being an agile coach myself and also having a husband as an agilist. It was my husband who introduced me to agile originally. And me and my husband regularly, when we could go out, we'd actually go out on team builds, because at one point we owned a company together. So we would spend all day working on the company together, but we also needed to have a relationship. So we would do team builds like those breakout rooms as an example, but we'd pick an extremely difficult one because it would force us to work together, but also enjoy ourselves outside of work. And we'd find these activities as team builds. And it did actually help us as a couple to kind of define our marriage as well as our business relationship, because we do have a business relationship. So kind of have the separation, but being able to communicate. So I can 100% relate with that. And me and my husband will use agilic behaviors with each other. We will ask those in-depth questions. We will want to understand why are we doing this or what are we doing next. We also like to plan in Agile as well. So we use our, Kanban boards for our everyday stuff. We use Scrum for our projects. So yeah, it works. And it works.
Exactly.
You could create a dating site, Agile dating site, getting people to talk to each other in Agile. That's my project, right, Karl? That's our next product, right? Agile World, agility
Agile
dating.
Okay.
Agile dating.
So,
get the
so
URL.
How many people have we got in our backlog for the date?
Find it.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Have you ever done a daily Scrum with your husband?
Yes, I have. We've even done a refinement session. I've even played the product owner role when we're actually doing a project.
Everybody knows the wife is the product owner. Okay. In fact, when I first started experimenting with personal agility with the second person, the rough equivalent of the Scrum Master in personal agility is, we call it the celebration partner, the celebration coach. Okay, so in Scrum, you've got review and plan. Review what you got done, beat up the team for what they didn't get done, and then plan what you're going to try to get done in the next sprint. Okay, and I'm being a little bit, you'll notice I'm not using the language of the Scrum guide. I'm using the language that comes from the field. So in personal agility, we do it slightly differently. Celebrate what you got done. Choose what you'd like to do moving forward. Okay, so you notice how we have a slightly different attitude towards the whole planning process. So, but what's helpful, one of the things I discovered when I was trying to do, doing my life as a Scrum project, you got the 3 roles in Scrum, and I just found it wasn't possible to be product owner, team, and Scrum Master all in one. Okay, and the first one I noticed was difficult was the Scrum Master role, because what the Scrum Master is able to do is kind of stand back, take a look at the big picture, ask some questions about whether we're doing the right thing or not. Whereas when you're kind of in the work, you're fully in the work, and it's just hard to step back. So I asked my wife to be my celebration partner, and people looked at me and they said, "You're going to let your product owner be your Scrum Master? You're insane." And there was this, what exactly is the role here? But we had some conversations about it, and I explained kind of what the coaching stance is, and she got it, and we did it, and we started doing it so, what we did was to celebrate and choose once a week, and we have had a couple of interruptions since we started it, but basically we've been doing it pretty continuously now for about 3 or 4 years, and we really miss it when we don't do it. Now, I do have
how the product owner and Scrum Master role, when you're doing it in personal agility, works, because you see the product owner, say, we'll give an example, your wife or myself, are invested in what you're doing as a couple or what your little project is. But also you're going to be there to facilitate it as well and get rid of any barriers that are stopping you from achieving the goal that you're achieving. So in a personal agility, it can work, unless you're a Sicilian woman who's extremely stubborn and decides she wants one color and the husband doesn't want another color. That's when you've got a difficulty.
I don't see how being Sicilian is an attribute of that. You already precede that by being the Scrum owner and the Scrum Master and the product owner. So whether you're Sicilian or not, it's really got nothing to do with it at that point.
You know me too well, Karl. We spend far too much time together.
So one of the things which might be helpful in a case like this is to be clear, so what are we doing personal agility on? Because one scope is your life. Another scope is you and your partner together as a couple. Okay, so you might be the product owner of the couple, but you're not the product owner of your partner. Okay, because it's his life or her life, as the case may be. Okay, and that, and so being able to say, and so like when my wife and I were doing this, we would say, this is not primarily about our life as a couple. This is about me doing my work. Okay, and so it kind of explained, what does a coach do and what does a product owner do? And the product owner is the one who gets to make decisions about the product, and that was me. So she really was, in this coaching role, and I was both the product owner and the team in that sense. It's as with many stories, it's a long one, and there's some ups and downs in that one. But it's basically by getting this clarity, it's worked quite well for us. And we're actually now at the point where, I'm her celebration coach for her board. She started doing it about 6 months ago, and really loves. She was like, wow, I'm having so much fun. I'm getting so many things done, and I'm doing things that I care about. And so that was really exciting for her. And then she's my celebration coach. And so it's we've done it enough now that we kind of both get the roles. And obviously any couple has got its power struggles in it and its relationships, and it's, who's responsible for what, and, what's territory, and, blah, 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 blah. But, these things, they can be negotiated. What I wanted to come back to was perhaps my version of the family daily scrum. Okay. What did you do yesterday? What's the plan for today? What's getting on your nerves? Okay. Great questions. Try them out sometime. Okay, especially to the men in the audience, try it with your wives or partners. Just the listening to each other is great stuff.
Karl, I'm going to try it on you because I don't think my pups will respond back to me. But I'm going to try it on you. What got on your nerves today, Karl? Obviously, don't answer that now.
I'm not allowed to name the companies involved, but
but
there are a few.
Wait, Karl, wait. Remember, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, but
what happens in the internet stays in the internet. So
yeah, I know there's a lot of people connected to the internet though. So, and yeah, I'm not going to share that level of detail. I feel it's unfair of them to speak of them when they have no voice in the matter. But I take on board your question.
Thank you.
This has been fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure to come.
Hopefully we can get you back on soon, and maybe talk more in detail about personal agility. But it has been absolutely amazing.
But I want you to keep the green background if I come back. Okay. Okay. Green is good. I like green. Okay. Be my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.